Hello students, in this second part we are going to learn about or we are going to revise about some of the concepts of rotational dynamics like moment of inertia, torque, angular momentum. Okay, so question wise we will go. The first question they might ask you that what is moment of inertia or what is how it is analogous to mass. Okay, in the linear motion we will see. So before that you must know what is rotational motion. So rotational motion is the motion of a body around a fixed axis that is called as axis of rotation, and along, let's say this is the body, okay, and it is moving around this axis. Okay, so this is what axis of rotation. So what will happen that every particle on this body, we will consider a few points here. Every particle on this body is moving in a circle. Okay, if you are saying that this is in rotational motion, that the definition itself says that every particle on this body, in this body, rotates in different circles but circular motion, and whatever the angular speed, angular velocity the body is moving, every particle will move in the same angular velocity. But if the radii are different, we know that velocity is given as r omega. So even if the omega is same, due to this different radii, you can see here the radii are different for each and every particle, the velocity will be different. Okay, so this is what rotational motion. So let's see what is moment of inertia. So moment of inertia is defined as sum of, you can write it down, sum of product of each mass of each particle and the square of perpendicular distance of that particle from the axis of rotation. Okay, it simply says that, let's say if there is a body like this, okay, it has this axis of rotation and it is moving in rotational motion. So if I take each and every particle on this body, so there are infinite number of particles or many number of particles here, but let's say this particle has mass m, or let's say m1, and it is at a perpendicular distance r1 from this body. So this particle, let's say it has a mass m2, this is at a distance r2, okay, this is at a distance r3, this has mass m3. So what will be moment of inertia of this body? Moment of inertia is denoted as I. It is equal to summation of mass of each body into the square of distance of that body or square of distance of that particle from the axis of rotation. Okay, so here for calculating the moment of inertia, the mass is not only sufficient. Okay, the distribution is also sufficient, it is also necessary. Okay, if the particles are away from this axis of rotation, what you can say, the moment of inertia is large. If the particles are closer to this, like a cylinder, let's say, if they are closer to this, what you can say, the moment of inertia is smaller. If you consider like this, you can say, and here let's say this is a ring like something, and the particles are away from this axis of rotation. So what we can say, the moment of inertia is larger here. You can imagine in this way also. So this is about what? Axis of rotation, moment of inertia. Okay, the second thing they can ask you is about derive an expression for kinetic energy. Okay, so kinetic energy of a rotating body. Let's say this is a rotating body, okay, arbitrary body, anything, and this is the axis of rotation, and I told you that if this is the axis of rotation and the body is moving with some angular velocity omega, and if you take any few particles, they will be moving in circular motion, isn't it? So these particles, they are describing what? Circular motion with their own radii. Let's say this is R1, let's say this is R2, let's say this is R3, and these masses are M3, M2, M1. So let's say we know that from circular motion we know that their speeds, okay, their linear speed that is equal to V, it can be given as R omega, and this omega is common for every particle. What is happening? The radius is increasing or changing, that's why the linear speed is changing. Are you getting it? So what will happen for each and every particle? If I for Ke for particle 1, if I want to find out Ke for particle 1, let's say for this particle I want to find out the kinetic energy. So what I will write? I will write as half mv1 square or m1 v1 square. This will be Ke, kinetic energy of particle 1. So we know that v1 can be written as r1 into omega. Omega is constant, so I can replace it like this: half m1 r1 omega square, r1 square omega square, isn't it? So for the particle 2, Ke for particle 2, it will be similarly half m2 r2 square omega square, isn't it? So for each and every particle, for any particle, the pattern will be same. So if I want to find out the total kinetic energy, I will add all these particles, isn't it? So half m1 r1 square omega square plus half m2 r2 square omega square plus half m3 r3 plus omega square. So up to what? Half mn rn square omega square, because omega is common here. So what you can do, you can take this half and omega common out, half, and inside what? m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square, likewise mn rn square and omega square outside. And we know that the addition of each mass into the distance from the axis of rotation and the square, okay, this complete term, we know that we have defined it as moment of inertia. So this complete expression will become what? The total kinetic energy of rotating body can be written as half I omega square. Okay, so this is the kinetic energy of a rotating body, or rotational kinetic energy. It is called as rotational kinetic energy. If you compare this kinetic energy with linear kinetic energy, it is what? Half mv square, and Ke rotation is what? Ke rotational, it is what? Half I omega square. So we have studied that in linear motion, if you say linear velocity, in rotational motion or in circular motion we call it angular velocity, but in linear motion, if you are talking about mass only, here in rotational motion you need to talk about the moment of inertia. So here you can say this mass is analogous to moment of inertia. You can prove this mass is analogous to moment of inertia. You can also prove using this derivation. Okay, just keep this in mind. The next question they might ask you is derive the expression for moment of inertia of a ring. Okay, so what you will do, you will simply draw a ring here. Okay, and if they are directly asking about the moment of inertia, you will choose this axis of rotation. Okay, you will choose this axis of rotation. If you see the mass of this ring, let's say this mass is m, okay, and radius, it is equal to r. Now we know that the moment of inertia of a body is the product, is the total or addition or summation of each mass m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square up to what, mn rn square, isn't it, for a ring or whatever. So here you can say this, for every particle, the distance from axis of rotation is same, isn't it? For every particle, r is same from axis of rotation, because it is a circle simply. So what you can write, that for moment of inertia you can take this r, or you can write this r1 is equal to r2 is equal to rn is equal to r. So take this r, that is what, radius, common. So this will become m1 plus m2 plus m3 plus mn up to r square. Okay, so here this moment of inertia, and we know the total mass of the ring is m. So m1 plus m2, this completely will be m, and this will be r square. So this is the moment of inertia of a ring, okay, about this axis of rotation. Okay, so you can simply write this expression. Now they can also ask you about moment of inertia of a uniform disk. So what is uniform disk? That mass is distributed uniformly. Okay, so if you take a disk here, let's say, okay, so let's say this is a disk, okay, and similarly the axis of rotation is passing through this center. This is axis of rotation. The mass of the disk is, mass we call it m, and the radius is r, let's say. So here you cannot proceed like a ring here, because what will happen, the complete mass is distributed along its surface. And here one more important thing is, okay, leave it. So it is what, distributed uniformly, the mass is distributed here uniformly. So we will define a new concept that is called as surface density. Okay, so you know that what is simply volumetric density or density, it is what, mass upon volume. So if I am defining what, the surface density, it is actually mass upon area. Okay, so the mass of this body is what, m, and the area is what, pi r square, and we need denote this surface density as sigma. Okay, m upon pi r square is equal to sigma. So pi r square is the area. So what we will do, we will take a small ring. So this is called as elemental ring. Elemental ring of width dr, and the radius of the ring is, let's say, small r, and its width is dr. So if you see from the top, this ring is like this, and its width is, I am showing a little larger width, but its width is very small, that is what, dr, and its radius is what, r. Getting it? Okay, so you first write down what are the given, then you write down the surface density of this ring, then you state that you are considering the elemental ring out of this disk, and this is the disk. Okay, this is the ring, elemental ring. So the elemental ring has an area of the elemental ring. So area of an elemental ring, due to the small width, you can take the circumference of the ring. So that will be 2 pi r, this will be the circumference of the ring, into its width, you can directly write it as dr. So this will be the elemental area. Okay, just try to remember, this is the most important step of this derivation. How you are writing the small area, this area, how you are writing here? and according to calculus you can write this dA can be written as 2 pi r into dr. So 2 pi r is the length and the dr is the width. Simply we can do like this. Okay, so this 2 pi r into dr. Okay, so next concept what you will write, mass of the elemental ring. This is the first step, this is the second step. Mass of the elemental ring. So mass of the elemental ring, let's call this dm, because it is very small, so we are calling it as dm only. So we know that the surface density is given as sigma. So you can write the dm mass, you can write it as sigma into dA. Okay, this is proportionality. Or for understanding you can write, you can see here, for understanding, for the total mass we are having total area, for the small mass we are having small area. Okay, and the mass, total mass upon total area, it is written as dm sigma, and it is what, dm upon dA. So dm can be written as sigma into dA. Simply for basic understanding you can remember this, otherwise you proceed directly. So what will be this sigma? It is what, m upon pi r square. And what is this dA? This is 2 pi r dr, isn't it? Okay, so now third step we will write moment of inertia mi for continuous bodies. Continuous bodies is given as moment of inertia is given as r square dm. Just try to remember this. This is also important. It is what, r square dm. Integration means summation of all the small elements. Okay, so this moment of inertia, it will be what, and the limits are from, see, we'll write it afterwards. This will be r square, and what is this dm? Dm is m upon pi r square into 2 pi r dr. Okay, so here we can say this I is coming, and here what is changing? Here r is changing, or dr is what, the integration, integrating variable. So here the dr is changing from 0 to capital R, isn't it? For the ring, the r starts from 0 to capital R. Okay, so we will integrate here. Now this m, pi and r square, these are constant, and this 2 pi is also constant. We will take them outside. M upon pi r square into 2 pi, and what remains inside is r square and this r. So this is r cube into dr, and the limits are from 0 to capital R. Okay, so here outside this pi gets cancelled out, and this expression becomes 2m upon r square. Inside this r cube, you know that x cube, its integration is x raised to 4 divided by 4. So r cube, it will be r raised to 4 divided by 4, limits from r to 0, 0 to r. So this will be 2m upon r square, and here you can put the limits. 0 if you put, it will become 0. So we will putting r raised to 4 divided by 4. So if you see, this 2 and this 2 gets cancelled out, and the final expression we are getting from here, so moment of inertia of a disk we are getting here, this half we are taking outside, and this m and this r square taking here. Okay, so the expression, this is the expression for moment of inertia of a disk. So you can see that for a ring it is mr square, and for a disk this is half mr square. Okay, so if the mass and radii are same, if the masses and radii are same, you can say that the moment of inertia of a ring is double of that of the moment of inertia of a disk. Okay, you try to remember this. That's all. The next concept we are going to see is radius of gyration. Okay, this is also one of the most understood concept, misunderstood concept. So what is the radius of gyration? Simply, I will first tell you how to work. What is the significance or what is the use of the radius of gyration. if I ask you to find out the moment of inertia of a ring or a disc or a sphere, you can use some methods of calculus. Okay, we can use some methods of calculus to find out this, isn't it? So for simple objects, or simple objects, what we can do, we can use mathematical models or calculus to find out the moment of inertia. But for complex bodies, like anything that is rotating and but has a complex shape, we cannot use, or we can use calculus, but we need to assume something or it will go hectic. Okay, so the moment of inertia for these complex bodies can be found out only doing experiments. Okay, for complex bodies. So but finding out the moment of inertia or anything, that is not that much of use. Sometimes you are interested in distribution of mass. Sometimes we are interested in distribution of mass around the axis of rotation. Okay, and for that we need a single term. We need a single term or single quantity that will tell us about the distribution of mass, and that is called as radius of gyration. Radius of gyration. I will tell you, it will get clear once I will tell you the explanation of this, and this is denoted as capital K. Okay, so what is radius of gyration? Let's say if I have a simple ring, disc or sphere, that is okay. But let's say if I have something like this and I have been given one axis of rotation around which this body is rotating. So simply they have said that this body has a mass m and find out the moment of inertia of this body. So what you will do, you cannot use calculus, so you will use experiments. You will find out the energy of rotations, anything from these experiments, and you will find out, somehow you will find out the moment of inertia of this body. But if I am interested in finding out how the mass is distributed, or can I change the shape of this body so that the something will change or like that, so for that I will convert this body, keeping the axis of rotation same. I will convert this body. I will make this complete rigid body a point mass with same mass. Okay, so I have converted this whole body as a point mass. Okay, as a point mass, and now it is kept at some radius called as K. And now let's say it is similarly, it is being rotated, and now I can say that moment of inertia of this body can be written as m into k square. Okay, initially let's say moment of inertia was something that was found out experimentally, and now for my better understanding that how the mass is distributed, I am using some term called as k, or that is, we have seen, that is radius of gyration, by converting the whole body into a point mass and kept at a distance k, so that this second picture will give me a better idea about the mass distribution. If this k is larger, I can say that the mass is largely distributed. If the k is smaller, I can say the mass is closely distributed around the axis of rotation. So this k is important in understanding the mass distribution. This k is important in understanding mass distribution. Okay, so k is important in understanding the mass distribution. Means what? The k depends on axis of rotation, the position of axis of rotation. Okay, or you can say the distribution of mass, or you can say the distribution of mass or size or shape. Okay, and it is independent, k is independent of the total mass. Means what? It has nothing to do with the total mass. It doesn't care how much your mass is. It is only interested in the distribution of this mass. Okay, so what is radius of gyration? It can be defined as the distance. The radius of gyration can be defined as the distance from the axis of rotation, and okay, or not, the distance from axis of rotation to such a point where the mass of the whole body is assumed to be concentrated. Okay, concentrated, and this conversion has no effect or no effect on the moment of inertia. So you can write it here. The moment of inertia of the body remains same. Okay, so if I talk about a ring, let's say for a ring, if I talk about a ring, the moment of inertia is given as mr square. And if I, for this whole ring, if I convert this into a small point with the same mass, let's say, but at a distance k from the axis of rotation, I can write this as moment of inertia it remains same. Okay, so here I can write that moment of the radius of gyration of the ring is r only. Okay, if you take a disc, let's say, if this is a disc, let's say, okay, for a disc, what will happen? This half mr square is the moment of inertia of the disc. It is equal to mk square. Okay, because the complete disc is supposed to be a point mass, and we know that the moment of inertia of a point mass is simply mk square. Okay, so here this k comes out to be r by root 2. So here you can say that this k has nothing to do with this mass m. It is cancelled out already. So this depends only on what? Size, shape and mass distribution of the body. So see, this radius of gyration, it will not be 100% clear to you, because it is beyond your scope, means where it is actually used. It is used in ships and means many other engineering fields where these bodies are of complex shapes. So there, rather than calculating the complete moment of inertia using calculus and all, you go experimentally, and for understanding the mass distribution you use radius of gyration. That's all. So if I'm talking, so let's say if I'm talking about a sphere, or otherwise I think you are clear with this concept little, or for basic understanding only, I think you are clear with the concept of radius of gyration. Okay, now we will talk about one of the most important theorems in rotational dynamics, that is parallel axis theorem. So this is a body with a center of mass at this position, and I'm taking any other point, that is O, let's say, and what I'm saying that there is an axis of rotation. Okay, there is an axis of rotation at point C, and around which, about which, if the body is rotated, the moment of inertia will be IC. Are you getting it? Means if this is the center of mass, about this, if the body is rotated, the moment of inertia we are getting is IC. And now we have been asked that if I take any other axis, okay, passing through any other point, let's say point O, if I pass through this, and what will be this IO if the distance between these two is, let's say, h. Okay, so we know that parallel axis theorem, it is given as I naught is equal to IC plus mh square, where m is the mass of the complete body, h is the distance between two axes. One axis is passing through the center of mass about which it is rotated. The center of mass, the moment of inertia will be IC, and if it is rotated about this axis of rotation, the moment of inertia will be IO. So we know this value, Now if I change h, the value of IO will be changing. Okay, so this is the theorem, or this is a mathematical statement or mathematical expression for parallel axis theorem. So sometimes they will ask you to derive this theorem. How would you derive it? So what I will do, I will take a elemental mass. Okay, this is what elemental mass, or a very small mass, that is called as dm, at a point D, let's say at a point D. Okay, and from here, if I join this, 1 minute, from here I will join this, and I will join this also, and I will extend this in such a way that from here where perpendicular could be drawn. One perpendicular could be drawn, and I will name this point as point N. Okay, or let's make this more clearer. Let's say we are looking it from top, so this will be perpendicular, and this is point N. Okay, so we have been asked to find out the moment of inertia of this elemental mass if it is rotated about point O. So we know that the moment of inertia of dm about axis of rotation, passing through O. If I rotate this mass dm about an axis passing through this O, I can write it as the moment of inertia would be what? The mass, that is dm, into OD square. Can I write it? Yeah, simply. Okay, so if you see here, this OD, according to Pythagoras theorem, this OD or OD square can be written as ON square plus ND square or DN square. So I will expand this OD square as, this moment of inertia can be written as dm into, in the place of this I will write ON square plus DN square. Rather than ND, I will write DN. Okay. So this is DN. Okay, so again, this ON is what? ON is addition of OC plus CN. Here I can write ON is addition of OC plus CN. So here I can also write it is what? dm in bracket OC plus CN the whole square plus DN square. Okay, so I can expand this as using a plus b the whole square, that is a square plus b square. So this moment of inertia will become OC square plus CN square plus 2 into OC plus CN plus DN square. It is little lengthy, but you need to cope up with it. Also, if you see this DC square, here we can write this DC square is coming out to be CN square plus DN square. So this CN square plus this DN square, they both can be combined as what? DC square. So the moment of inertia will become dm in bracket OC square plus DC square plus 2 into OC into CN. Okay, simply. Now we know that this CO is what? It is equal to h. It is equal to h. So what we can write here, I am writing this I is equal to dm in bracket OC square plus DC square plus 2h Cn. Okay, or rather here also I will write h. So h square plus DC square plus 2h into Cn. Okay, so the final expression here, it will become this I is equal to dm into h square. Okay, this will become dm into h square plus dm into dc square plus dm into 2h into Cn. Okay, so this is the moment of inertia for small mass dm, isn't it? For total body I can write the moment of inertia as integration of dm h square. I can put integration sign for individual terms like dm dc square plus integration of dm 2h Cn, isn't it? Yeah. So what it will become, this moment of inertia or the total moment of inertia, it will become what? Here see, this h is constant, so h can be taken out. In bracket here it will the integration sign, it will be dm plus this dc is what? Wait 1 minute, we can do something to it. Yeah, this dc is what? This dc is simply what? IC. Okay, this IC can be written as what? dm into dc square, no? So dm into dc square, this is nothing but what? This is nothing but, you can write this as IC, the moment of inertia passing through the center of the total body, plus this is what? This 2h is constant, so I will take it in bracket dm into Cn, in bracket dm into Cn. So for the whole body, the summation of mass will be capital M, that is total mass of the body, and this I will become mh square plus IC square, sorry, not IC square, it is simply IC, that moment of inertia, plus 2 into h into integration of dm into Cn. Now this is important, what you are going to do about this, because we already know that the value of this will become 0. So let's go back here. If any mass, if you take, let's say if any mass, I mean any mass, I am saying mass m, and this is the center of mass, and this is the distance between this mass and the center of mass. Okay, so I had told you one concept, you might be remembering it. It is called as mass moment in the chapter of center of mass, and I had told you summation of mass moments, it is always equal to 0. Why? Because the total mass distributed in this body is uniform about the center of mass. Okay, it is a little confusing if you are not remembering this mass moment concept right now, but if you can say, if you take the addition of, if you take the integration, means addition of any mass to distance between that mass and the center of mass, if any mass here, let's say this, the total addition of these, if you take proper vectors, the total addition plus minus everything, it will become 0. Okay, individually it is not 0, but the addition of all these will become 0, because this will become 0 due to what? Uniform mass distribution. Uniform mass distribution. If the mass distribution is uniform, then what will happen? The summation of mass moments will become equal to 0. And if this is summation, means what? It is nothing but integration. If there is large number of masses, okay, in the uniform mass distribution, a distributed body, the summation of mass moments you might be remembering, mi(xi) is equal to the summation of all these will be equal to 0. I have told you once, but just I'm not going deep into this concept, but uniform mass distribution is there. Then what will happen? Summation of mass moments, the complete, each and every mass moment will not be equal to 0. But if you take the complete addition of these two, plus minus everything will become 0, and this total term will become 0. This total term will become 0 if the mass distribution is uniform, and this moment of inertia about point O of the total body, it can be written as IC plus mh square. Okay, so in this derivation, what means where you can go wrong here in this complete derivation expanding the brackets, and second, you might be confused, maybe you are confused about the mass moments, but you can go on YouTube or anywhere, Google it, what are the summation of mass moments, why it is equal to 0. I had told you this, okay, for two masses system. Okay, let's say this is the center of mass, this is the distance x1, this is the distance x2. If this is mass m2 and this is mass m1, about the center of mass, I have told you that this m1 x1 plus m2 x2 was equal to 0. Okay, maybe you remember it for two masses. Similarly, for the complete mass, for the completely uniformly distributed mass, this also becomes 0. Okay. Okay, and now the second theorem we are going to see here is perpendicular axis theorem, and this is a relatively very simpler theorem, but you can write one point about this. This is only applicable for planar bodies. Means you cannot apply this for sphere or hemisphere or like that. This is applicable for planar body only. Okay, let's say this is the plane of this body, and try to just remember this, that the body plane should be in xy axis. Okay, you can write it, and if you take this as z axis, the theorem is stated like Iz is equal to Ix plus Iy. Okay, you can call them as planar moment of inertia. Okay, and you can call this as perpendicular axis. You can call this as perpendicular axis. Okay, so these two are in the plane of this body, and this is perpendicular to this plane of the body. Okay, and here whatever term that is coming, it should be perpendicular to the plane of the body, and rest two will be in the plane or the axis of rotation. The axis of rotation should be in the plane of the body, the two axes of rotation, and this axis of rotation should be perpendicular to the plane of the body. Okay, so around this, if it is rotated, it will be addition of this moment of inertia about x-axis and y-axis. Okay, so you can simply state this as the moment of inertia about an axis which is perpendicular to the plane of this body is equal to the addition of moment of inertia about two mutually perpendicular axes which are in the plane of this body. You can simply write this statement. Okay, you can mug it up and you can write it, doesn't matter. So how to derive this? Let's consider a point. On this body. Let's say this is a point P on this body. So from y-axis the distance is, let's say, y, and from x-axis the perpendicular distance is, let's say, x. These are what? Perpendicular distances. And from z-axis the perpendicular distance will be this shortest distance, isn't it? Because this is vertical, so this is what? Z. So we know that the moment of inertia about x-axis and this mass, let's say this is mass is m. Okay, So moment of inertia of this particle at point P about this axis of rotation x can be written as m into x square, isn't it? Mass into the perpendicular distance square. Similarly for Iy we can write my square, and for Iz we can write it is at mz square, isn't it? See, you should imagine this. This is perpendicular distance, this is perpendicular distance, this is perpendicular distance. So if I add equation number 1 and equation number 2, what I will get? Ix plus Iy can be written as mx square plus my square. It can be simply written as mx square plus y square. Let's call it equation number 4. And in this diagram, okay, I am redrawing this diagram. This was z, this was x, this was y. So this can be also said as y. This is perpendicular according to Pythagoras theorem. What we can write? That z square is equal to x square plus y square. So from equation 4, what we can write? This x square plus y square, instead of this x square plus y square, we can simply put z square. So Ix plus Iy come also to be mz square, isn't it? Mz square. And we know that from equation 3, or from equation 3, we know that this mz square is Iz. So simply this Iz will come out to be Ix plus Iy. So this is the mathematical expression for theorem of perpendicular axis. And you should always remember that this is for planar bodies only. The parallel axis theorem, that is applicable for any body, but perpendicular axis theorem, this is applicable for planar body only. Okay, so most of the important derivations and concepts I have taken here, and remaining concepts are like angular momentum or torque. Their derivations are self-explanatory. We have seen the derivation of kinetic energy of the total rotating body. So the derivations for angular momentum, the torque, is similar to them. You just need to check it. Okay, otherwise the important concepts you have covered. Okay, chalo, then have a good day. Bye bye.